Today we're working on making our lives easier when making code changes on our application. Let me pull up another set of visuals for today. So the idea is to reduce our manual actions when dealing with deployments to the cloud. Today we'll use GitHub. GitHub is mainly a versioning tool, but they also provide free CI/CD workflows called GitHub Actions. So what does it do? It basically just runs commands based off of a set of instructions you provide. These instructions will sit on a YAML file inside the workflow directory. I'm not going to deep dive into this, we can do that on another video, but basically here's what to expect. We'll use this YAML to give GitHub Actions to follow the same sequence of things we did on our previous video. To recap, we basically built the application's image, uploaded it to an image repository, did a deployment, and then access it on the browser. So let's start off by creating a new repository on GitHub. After this repository is created, you'll be redirected to this page where you'll have instructions on how to initialize your directory. And I'll use these commands to do that on my end. Let's go back to the previous directory where my app sits. Now I'm going to go back and forth between my terminal and the browser to copy and paste the commands. Since my directory is already existing, I'm just going to go use the second option. Once we've done executing all those commands, we're going to do a git add, git commit, and then git push. Let's go check out GitHub and see if the files are now there on the repo. There you go, you'll see that it shows up the readme file and all the files that we already have created from the previous video. Now that our project is connected to Git, let's start creating the workflow directory where we'll put our YAML files. Let's open up the YAML file. I like to start off with putting placeholders first so I don't get overwhelmed. Let's name our job deploy and let's put in 3 steps on it. We'll start with doing an echo inside it and we'll see what happens. So for this workflow to run, we need to commit our change and push it up to GitHub. Add that changed file, commit it, and then push. So let's go to GitHub and check out what happened. So let's go to the Actions tab. There you can see our first run and the messages that we echoed. Alright, so next thing to do is to start filling up the commands in those steps. Starting off with the build. Remember the commands we executed from our last video? You'll basically just put them on here. So first we need to log into Docker so we can upload our image to the repo. Then we'll build it, then we'll push. Next, I will add environment variables for our AWS credentials. These are the same credentials we used on our local machine that you needed to configure on AWS CLI. But here, instead of the CLI, we use GitHub Actions secrets. So we'll need to add values for these secrets on the repository. Under the settings tab, there's a security area, then secrets and variables, then actions. Under that, add your secrets. So before I run the workflow, let's double check our repository again, see if there's anything in there. Alright, nothing. Okay, let me do the push on the background to trigger the workflow. Alright, that was successful. Let's double check again the repository. There you go. We were able to build our application image and then push to the repository without us triggering the commands manually. Let's move to the next step, which is deploying it to AWS ECS. So right here, we have an AWS CLI command that updates an existing service. If you remember last time, we would just click around the dashboard to deploy our service. Now, we're doing some terminal commands to automate the process. We'll need the same things that we used on our ClickOps process, the ECS cluster, the service name, region. I got an issue with this though. The update will only work if the service exists. Since I cleared out my old service from the previous video, we need to check if the service exists first before updating, and if it does not, then we create a new one. So we have the update already, right? Let's deal with the create. As usual, when creating a new service, we need the task definition first. So we'll do that here. Again, store it on the variable and pass it to our command. A few more things that we need are the VPC, a subnet, and a security group. So let's try this out and see what happens. Okay, there's an error. Let me get this resolved real quick. Okay, so there were more issues that I found. Let me try this run first and I'll go back and explain what happened. There you go, finally it worked. Let me just double check our service and tasks under it. Okay, they're there. That's successfully executed. Let's go and check the final deploy step, and let me explain to you what I needed to change in order to create a working service. First, we need to make sure that we have our task definition sorted. All the details of the task, like the image, service resources, ports, will be on the container definition. We'll save that task definition's ARN on a variable. An ARN is an identifier, so AWS can find it. We'll need it on both the update and the create command below. Second, you already know we need the VPS, subnet, along with the security group. My issue was that the security group already existed as a leftover from our last video. So in case I forget to remove that again, I just put in a check that if the security group does not exist, then it creates the security group. Otherwise, it will use the existing security group ID. Now, I'm doing this last step just so we can make sure that the service and task definitions are deployed before we can say that the workflow is successful. Let's start with the wait service command on here. We provide the cluster and the service names, and let's add another command just so I don't have to go to the task definition to grab the IP. So we'll just grab the service and get the ARN of the task that's running. Use that ARN to grab the ENI, which provides us with the IP of the task. Commit and push. Let's go ahead and check the task. Right, that was successful. Over here we can find the IP, so we can just click on it and see if it works. There it is. Now, to test if we're able to easily make a change and upload this and have it running on ECS, let me make a quick change on the list of GIFs. We'll add that change, commit, and then push. Let's check the action that will run after pushing up that change. Alright, cool. That was a success. Check out the verify step and get the IP from there and visit that from the browser and see if we got our change. There you go. Alright, so on the next video, now we'll try to add a load balancer on this process. That way we can just use the domain or the load balancer endpoint to visit the application.